Hello, welcome back to my teaching on generational curses. Now, where are we? We are still talking about the movie The Fallen. And what happens is, what the enemy will do is he has a tendency that he wants to set you up. The enemy knows that as a child of God, you have come to the Lord. You have given your life to Christ. You have changed your heart as according to Mark 8:36. I believe it's 36 and 37, where you've given your heart, you've given your life for your life, and you switched. But yes, it's Mark 8:36. I don't know it off the top of my head, and I don't think I put that one in this document. I have to look in the other document. But let me see. Mark 8. This is in my prayer focus. No, that's not the one I want. Prayer focus. Mark. For whoever will save his life shall lose it, but whoever shall lose his life for my sake and the gospel shall save it. So, what the enemy does is it fights you. And if a person gives their life for the gospel, just like what happened in the film, he immediately becomes a target for the enemy. And the enemy starts to monitor his moves. So what's happening is the enemy is not happy that you left him and decided to walk with Jesus. So he's going to constantly come at you and be like, I'm over here because now I'm angry at you. So he sends his minions to monitor you and seek you out and all these kinds of things in order to see what you're doing. I'm not going to make this easy for you. You transferred away from me, but now that you've transferred away from me, now I'm going to watch what you do, because I know that you're coming into who you fully are. And as you are coming into who you are, it's about to get ugly. So he starts passing through the people that you know, just like I showed you in the previous, that the enemy was tapping each person. And as he tapped each person, he would move from person to person. This is what happens when you start being attacked by people. And I'm going to tell you something. I don't talk about certain spiritual things that had happened to me before, but I'm going to tell you about this. When I was in New York, I was living in a building, which I'm actually going to touch a little bit on. What the enemy will try to do is he will try to set you up. Coming back to where we were in the film, Denzel Washington's character had just shot an innocent man. The man was innocent, but the spirit operating in him was not. The spirit operating in him pulled a gun from his car and was threatening him with it. And when the guy raised the gun to him, I don't know who carries blanks in a car, but if you're going to carry bullets, I would think you would carry the real thing. So the fact that the guy had blanks in his car was weird to me anyway. But that's the point. The enemy will try to set you up. I had 3 different scenarios. I had a major scenario that was occurring while I was in New York, and I had a couple minor scenarios that were occurring. Stephanie P. released a video where she talked about what the enemy will try to do is he will try and do 3 things to a child of God because he doesn't want them to move or have the ability to move forward in what it is that the Lord has called them to do. What he does is he will put you in incarceration He was setting this man up to be incarcerated. The man that in which was killed and put on death row, incarcerated, and was put to death. The enemy does what? Tries to still kill and destroy. So, Denzel Washington's character was set up because when they went and checked the shoot, because all of his team had to come out there and check the shooting, and then his family came out there. He's like, "What y'all doing here? Go home." And because they had to check to see it was an honest shoot, and they know it was an honest shot, but they still had to check it and go through the procedures in relation to it. What the enemy will try to do is set you up in a scenario that will make you look crazy. Everything about the situation will be lined up to make you look crazy, because he wants to put you in an insane asylum, to put you into homelessness, meaning he will set up scenarios to come against your finances to put you into homelessness. You lose your car, your house, your this, that, and the other thing, and you cannot come out of it without spiritual deliverance. Then he will set you in incarceration. He was trying to set Denzel Washington's character up to be incarcerated. Now, what I wanted to say, what happened to me was, that I ended up in a place. And when I ended up in this place, it was a shelter, that when that happened, it was, now, due to the fact that it was a situation where I was in, let me admit it, at the fact that I'm releasing this, I was in that place. I had to pray every time I went in that place, and I had to pray every time I walked out of that place, because there was people operating in all kinds of spirits in there. I could see them, I could discern them. I was, ooh. Anyway, but on the nights that there was a full moon, straight chaos would break out in that place. I remember one night I was in there. I lie to you not. I was on the second or third floor. It was the full moon night, and the security guards were being called to every room on the floor. It would start on one end. They were running to try and take care of the situation over here. Then they ended up in the next room. 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 Somebody broke into a fight over here. Something went wrong over here. Something went wrong over here. And these people were just... And I'm like, what in the world? I remember one night there, it was a specific night, this woman came out her room and she was screaming at the top of her lungs, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here, I gotta get out of here. When I tell you, this walk with God ain't for the weak. That's just a taste of what I've experienced. But getting back to the generational curses, they jump from one person to another. Now, I'm going to actually pause on this film as I move into deeper discussion of the rest of the film. But what I will discuss, because I'm on the wrong page, because I switched, I forgot, that Revelations, because the whole film was about this. After this, it's Revelations 18:2. After this, I saw an angel come down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth illuminated by the splendor with a mighty voice. a shout, fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great, and she has become the dwelling for demons, haunted for the impure spirits, haunted for every unclean bird, haunted for every unclean, despicable animal, for all the nations drunk and maddening, wine her adulteries. The king of the earth commit adulteries with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich for her excessive lectures. Yeah, I believe that's what it is. But you can find it in Revelations 18. Go from 1 through 3. That was 1 through 3. But we're going to enter into the generational curses, because when the demons came down here, they were left here. But in the film, they talked about how demons jump from person to person, which is true, I believe, that it can jump from person to person. And I want to address this while we're here. Tiffany Montgomery released a word towards the early part of this year. It was back in March or April, early April, where she talked about the Lord has showed her that this was the year of the bride, but it also is the year that is not the year of the madman, but it's a spirit of maddening, insanity that is occurring. Does that not sound like what happened in this film that I was talking about? That every person that this spirit jumped into was caused and driven to go mad, and then was caused to murder, steal, kill, destroy. Because they were attacking this man in order to steal his credibility, kill his character, and destroy his life. So when these demons become attached to your family as a generational curse, what ends up happening is, I'm trying to mess with the camera. What ends up happening is you find that something will attach itself to the family lineage. Something will happen to a person. Like I said, we already spoke in the last one about the open doors that previous generations will open. Good scripture in the Bible talks about when, example, Tamar, remember when her brother sexually assaulted her, and she was made damaged goods for any other man. But why did that happen? That happened because of David's sin in previous years. David was her father. David had killed an innocent man in order to cover up his own idolatries and sinful iniquities. Then he turned around and slept and married the woman in which he had committed it with. But that didn't mean that it didn't make an effect on his children. His own son raped his sister. And the other child, one of his other sons, killed that son out of anger. The spirit of anger causes it to be murderous. And it murdered that son. And David ended up tore up because of that. The sins of the father are brought onto the children. This is how you end up with, look at David, lust, rape, witchcraft, made with spirit spouses, You may deal with shame, because you know David was dealing with shame. Character assassination, jealousy, anger, murderousness, pride, and people gossiping. Now, in the next film sequence I'm talking about, I'm not going to even bring up the storyline from the film. But if you recall a couple videos back, I mentioned that I watched, through the Lord constantly reminding me to go back and look at the last Scream movie. I was like, I'm Kristen, I don't watch no horror movies no more. Jesus, what are you talking about? Go look at Scream 5. And I come to find out Scream 5 was not 5, it was Scream. They called it Scream. And I'm like, what? Wait, isn't Scream 5? What? Anyway, it was the series that he brought my attention to. I'm not going to talk about the series, but I'm going to say that much, that he brought my attention to it. And this is what he showed me. There may be a generational attachment. For instance, something your father did, something your mother did, something that was done in your family lineage. Maybe, why am I thinking of politicians right now? I'm thinking of politicians right now. If people came together in any way to speak against the people, or, because that's what he's giving me, politicians, as a group, any group comes together to make a decision upon a person's life operating in witchcraft, it can cause a lineage curse. Anyone operating in witchcraft can cause a lineage curse. Meaning they spoke a word curse, they performed a ritual, they did a sacrifice, they did whatever in order to put upon a tormenting spirit to a person, place, or thing. And they must continue to torment or do what have you, because maybe they made a deal, they made a agreement, something was done. And don't even have to be them. It could have been something that was done in their previous generation. And what was done in the previous generation affected that generation. So, and what was spoken of, it doesn't have to be verbally spoken directly to the person. It could be spoken about this person. Remember, sin is as witchcraft, and gossip also is a form of sin. Because you are characterly assassinating somebody. So as the person's character is being assassinated, murder, jealousy, suicide, any of these types of things, you are murdering a person's good character. Think about Jesus. When Jesus came back to the city, they said, can anything good come out of this city? They couldn't even listen to what Jesus had to say, because a prophet is what? A prophet is disrespected in his own hometown. So with that being said, in some cases you will have a family association to something that will mar the family for the next generation. Something happened to your mother, something happened to your father, something happened, blah, 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 and it automatically comes upon you. We can look at Hollywood. What happened to Elvis? Then people constantly reminding Lisa Marie Presley of her father's. She's always walking in her father's shadow. You can say the same thing about Paris Jackson and the rest of the Jacksons children in relation to Michael Jackson. That's just an example. Why? Because what happened to the fathers, or what the father did, witchcraft, rituals, participation, knowledge, unknown rituals, money, blood sacrifices, anything that was exchanged. What was done automatically falls on the generation that follows it. If they do not break it in that next generation, these things will continue. So you will end up finding that it falls upon the following generation with anger, murder, jealousy, malice, and suicide. Did we not just say this about King David? Etc. The spirit will have the legal right in this generation to spiritually and physically delay and or hinder and steal, kill, and destroy, because he has the open access, because the previous generation created a a legal access point, because that's the one that made the blood sacrifice to that demon. That's the one that made blood sacrifice to the whatever entity that it considered. They didn't even know. It may have been a word curse. It may have been what have you. Some of them actually did go and perform a witchcraft ritual. And they have legal access to that person until those things are broken. That's why I tell y'all females that be praying for y'all kingdom spouses, praying for God ordained spouses. For one, you better pray that the Lord sends you the person that he wants you to marry, because you don't want to come into alignment and agreement with somebody else's demons and generational curses that are not even curses and generational blessings curses that are meant to be attached to you, meaning you're not even meant to pray against those things, because that's not your spouse. Yes. You understand what I'm saying? And because these generational curses are in existence in your family, what ends up happening is it chokes off and chokes out your ability to move forward. One of the ministers I was listening to today, the Apostle Richard E. Youngblood, did a word, and he was talking about how what the enemy's been trying to do is steal your mobility. Ergo, choking out the life and choking out your ability to move forward financially, relationally, business-wise, in your opportunities, all of these types of things. With all of these things being taken out, trying to steal them, kill them, or destroy them, to take them completely out to prevent your ability to move forward. But the person that is anointed to be the curse breaker has discernment. And if at first they have the discernment of the patterns, they are sent ministers, angelic helpers, witnesses, people that are meant to witness and talk to them at various points in times to give them enough instruction that they can move around whatever assignment that has been set forth before them, to guide them, give them wisdom, to give them ability, and to give them success to walk in what it is that God is talking about. And hello, the Word of God is your main source, because Jesus is the Word, and the Word is with God, and the Word was God, was it not? So you will have ministers, leaders, and they will give you spiritual wisdom as to, just like I'm giving you wisdom right here. You may not know this, but you're hearing it from me. You are hearing it from me. In order for you to be able to get the healing in which you need, the wisdom in which you need, the knowledge in which you are seeking, that it is protecting your eye gates, because you must protect your eye gates in the seasons in which God's giving you this wisdom, because what will happen is the enemy will try to breed doubt into you, because as soon as you get the wisdom, the enemy is going to try to maneuver confusion into you, because he needs you to not trust your own judgment even though you just got the wisdom. So he brings in a counterfeit, or a piece of information that counters what was just given to you, in order for you to be like, did God just tell me that? Tell me I'm not telling the truth. How many times has the Lord told you something and then something else come up and make you be like, is that what the Lord was trying to tell me? For real? Is it? Then, he gives you ears to hear in the spirit. Some people will believe, it's like, oh, God doesn't tell you or speak to you. I've heard an audible voice. I've heard a very clear audible voice. Now, maybe it was an angelic assistant, but I heard a very clear audible voice. At certain times, I'll hear very specific words. I'll even hear a sentence sometimes. Or sometimes what may happen is, for instance, he'll bring my attention to a song. He'll bring my attention to a statement. He'll bring my attention to a film. Hello? That will give me wisdom and understanding, that will give me the answers in which I am seeking. And I'll be like, oh. But I've heard him very audibly, clearly. And then he will bring out confirmation as to what he audibly said to me in the natural. Whether it be that I took the information to a spiritual person that he has ordained to be a divine helper in that season, and that person was able to give me more wisdom, or that I went back to his word, or he gave me a scriptural number. Perfect example this morning. We are in a season that the Lord is preparing to release miracles and blessings. And one of the ministers that I listen to, who's a divine helper to me, oh my God, she's a blessing. She wrote, she had a word, and she wrote a sequence of digits at the top of her word. And funny enough, I'm like, later that day, I'm on YouTube, and you know how YouTube always does the little funny animations, especially now. They got this little funny little animation because they cross-reference with Google, and they got a little funny animation popping up in the corner of my phone, and one of the sequences is the exact same number that was attached to her word. And I was like, now I'm sitting there, I'm thinking I saw the word, and I'm like, wait, I saw that number. I'm like, there was a word. It reminded me I forgot to go and look at her word. So I went to go look at her word, and it was the exact same number. Exact same sequence. Not one digit was different. And it came up again after I went back on YouTube. I was like, whoa. There are things that are lining up and syncing up in ways that we do not understand in this season. And you have to have the ears to hear and the ability to discern. So you got to protect your eye gates and your ear gates. Some of us got to come out of certain music that we listen to. I came out of a lot of the secular music that I listened to, and I only with very specific direction will go back and listen. There's some music that the Lord allots me to listen to. There's some things that are secular, that just like these films, He'll allow me to watch on occasion, and it's to give me wisdom. But outside of that, I don't really watch TV. I don't really listen to music like that. So, with that happening, you will literally see that they will literally give you the information necessary in order for you to pass your next test. Because you are about to be tested. When you are tested, in that test, He's going to show you He's already shown you by giving you the word. Now you have to walk through the test. If you've seen my previous words where I was talking about the 5 steps, part of that is the application when the test comes. Because you will pray, then you will seek, knock, what have you. you will be stretched, then you will apply during your test, and then you will let go of the things necessary, and then it will come a season for you to receive. When you have identified the stronghold at this level, sometimes the curse has a partner. Curse has a partner. What do you mean the curse has a partner? Certain strongholds are attached to other strongholds, okay? One thing opens the door to 3 or 4 other things to open up. Perfect example. If you are in poverty, you're in poverty because you have lack, you have you may be double-minded, you may be dealing with a spirit of confusion, you may be dealing with doubt, you may be dealing with hindrances. All of these are attached to the spirit of Leviathan, which is attached to the spirit of pride. So they may have a partner, but you see these curses are being performed by lower level demons, meaning these are minions. Every level, you ever heard the saying, every level there's a new devil? As you grow, if you go back to the word where I talked about the boot camp, God will put you through boot camp and he will show you where the demons were. So as he's showing you and you're walking through these experiences, you're going to be fighting lower level demons. It's like when you play a video game. When I was a kid, one of my favorite video games to play was Fighting Force. I just loved kicking behind in video games. It brought me some type of feeling when I had that controller in my hand and just had the ability to senselessly beat up the big bosses in these games. Just continually, senselessly beat them up. That's why I loved Buffy the Vampire Slayer growing up. And now I senselessly beat demons up in the spirit. I get mad, I go in the spirit, and I whoop behind. But with this happening, that these lower level demons are being used to try and take you out, but you, as you grow and you go through the testing and you go through those 5 steps that I was talking about, you will find that as you're going through, you will reach a level of deliverance from the stronghold on that level, but you're going to move to a new level and a new set of spirits that are operating in similar characteristics as the last ones will appear. So remember, your own enemies only have you for that one season. You're going to take those people out on that level in that season. If they find the house swept clean, they're going to come back with 7 more worse than them. This is why you sometimes find that you're fighting things that are harder and heavier in the next. But if you don't allow them back in, because they're going to test you to see if they can come back into your empty house.